Have you ever found yourself staring at a diamond ring in a jewelry store window, wondering why a shiny little rock costs more than a house in some parts of the world?
Right.
Meanwhile, water, the literal stuff of life, the thing you would die without in 3 days, is practically free. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get it from a tap for pennies.
It's the classic water diamond paradox. It's a puzzle that it drove Adam Smith, the father of economics, absolutely crazy.
I bet.
He couldn't initially reconcile why something with such high value in use, like water, had such low value in exchange, while diamonds were, the exact opposite.
And it's not just an abstract philosophy problem, is it? I feel like it explains why a government might decide to cap rent prices to help people, only to accidentally cause a massive housing shortage where nobody can find an apartment.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like there's this invisible operating system running underneath every choice we make, from buying a coffee to passing a national budget.
That is the perfect way to describe it. That operating system is what we call microeconomics. It is the hidden machinery of choice.
The hidden machinery. I like that.
It explains how billions of individual decisions to buy, to sell, to work, to hire somehow coordinate themselves without a central brain telling them what to do.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are on a very specific high-stakes mission. We aren't just browsing through interesting topics today. We are doing a comprehensive deep tissue analysis of the NCERT Class 12 Microeconomics textbook.
A foundational text.
It is, but, and this is the key, we are tailoring this specifically for the aspirants following the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
Which is, frankly, a fantastic resource for cutting through the noise and getting straight to what matters for the exam. So we're building on that.
It really is. And before we start turning the gears in this economy, I have a humble request for you, the listener. If you are finding value in this deep dive, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel. It tells us we're on the right track and, it keeps the algorithm happy.
It really does make a difference.
And if you are capable and feel generous, we highly encourage you to support the channel on Patreon.
That support is literally what keeps the lights on. I mean, it allows the research team to dig through these textbooks and all the PYQs to build these comprehensive breakdowns.
A massive, heartfelt shout out to all the current supporters. You guys are the engine behind this car, really. Also, engage with us, like the video, leave a valuable comment.
We do read them.
We actually read them, and it helps other serious learners find this content.
Absolutely. Community is everything in this journey.
One last bit of housekeeping before we dive in.
Right.
If you're panicking about taking notes while you listen, stop. Relax.
Please don't.
We have free notes with practice PYQs. That's previous year questions available on the Telegram public channel. The link is right there. But if you want a VIP experience...
A premium bundle, the whole package.
Exactly. If you want to binge watch this entire series at once, access organized premium notes, detailed model mains answers, and a whole bunch of extra PYQs, you need to be in the private Telegram library.
And how do they do that?
Just DM us on the public Telegram channel, and we'll get you sorted. Okay, housekeeping done. Let's crack open this book.
Let's start at the very beginning. Chapter 1, A Simple Economy.
The text starts with this concept of a simple economy. And honestly, when I first read it, it felt a bit like a children's storybook. It introduces a weaver, a teacher, and a farmer. Why are we starting with a weaver in a book meant for 12th graders and, future civil service officers?
It does sound deceptively simple, but it's setting up the most complex problem in human history: interdependence.
Interdependence, okay.
Think about that simple economy. The weaver has yarn, cotton, and a loom. That is his asset. That's his wealth. But here's the problem. You can't eat yarn.
I mean, you could try, but it wouldn't be very nutritious.
Precisely. The weaver needs food. The farmer has corn, plenty of it. But he needs clothes because he can't wear corn husks. The teacher has skills, what economists call human capital, but she needs shelter and food.
So nobody is an island?
Nobody. No single individual has everything they need. We're all locked in this web of needing things we don't have.
And this leads us to the core concept.
Correct. And this brings us to the core analysis of the chapter: resources. In economics, we usually group these into land, labor, and capital. And the defining characteristic of these resources, whether it's the weaver's yarn, the farmer's land, or a nation's oil reserves, is that they are scarce.
Scarcity. That's the bedrock of the entire discipline, right? The one-word summary of economics.
It is the friction point. It is the reason economics exists at all. Resources are limited. There is only so much arable land in India. There are only 24 hours in a day for a worker. But human wants
Unlimited. I mean, give
Yeah.
me a bicycle, I want a car. Give me a car, I want a jet. Give me a jet, I want a moon base. It never stops.
Exactly. And that collision unlimited human wants crashing into limited scarce resources creates the problem of choice.
Ah, up or
Because
down.
you cannot have everything, you are forced to choose what to have. And this is true for a poor farmer in a remote village, and it is equally true for the United States government or the Indian Union budget.
So the scale changes, but the fundamental problem remains identical. The finance minister and the weaver are wrestling with the same ghost.
The problem never changes, and the textbook frames this as the three central questions every society, regardless of its political system, must answer.
Okay, let's break those down. What is question one?
What to produce.
This is the famous guns versus butter trade-off.
It is the classic example, but let's make it relevant to an Indian bureaucrat since that's who our listeners want to be. Imagine you are the finance secretary. You have a fixed budget-limited resources.
Okay.
Do you build a new expressway? That's capital expenditure. Or do you fund a subsidy scheme like MG and RIGI for social welfare? You cannot maximize both simultaneously.
Every rupee spent on the highway is a rupee not spent on the subsidy.
That's it. You're constantly making a choice.
That's a sobering way to look at budgeting. It's not just spending, it's sacrificing. You are constantly killing one option to let another one live. What's the second question?
How to produce? This is a technology question, really. Do we use labor-intensive methods, lots of people, few machines, or do we use capital-intensive methods, robots, automation, and heavy machinery?
And for a country like India, with a massive population, that's a political landmine, isn't it?
Huge, a huge dilemma. If you choose machines, you get efficiency and maybe cheaper goods, but you might cause higher unemployment.
Right.
If you choose labor, you create jobs, but you might be slower, more expensive, and less competitive on a global scale. There is no right answer, only a choice with consequences.
And the third question, the final piece of the puzzle.
For whom to produce? This is the distribution question. Who gets the final mix of goods and services? Does the corn go to the person who worked the hardest, person who owns the land, or the person who is starving and needs it the most?
That sounds less like math and more like ethics or politics.
And that's where economics bleeds into politics. It's unavoidable. Now, to visualize this problem of choice, economists use a very specific graph. It's called the Production Possibility Frontier, or PPF.
I remember this curve from school. It's usually bowed outwards. Can you walk us through what it actually represents visually?
Sure. Imagine a simple graph with only two axes. Let's say corn is on the y-axis and cotton is on the x-axis.
Got it. Corn and cotton.
The curve, that line, represents the absolute maximum limit of what your economy can produce if everyone is working, all land is used, and no resources are wasted. It's the edge of your potential.
So if I'm strictly on the line, I'm being efficient. I'm at 100% capacity.
You are maximizing potential. You are squeezing every drop of value out of your resources. If you are inside the curve, say a point below the line, you are inefficient.
How so?
Well, maybe workers are lazy, machinery is broken, or there's a strike. You could be producing more, but you aren't. There's slack in the system.
And what if I want to be outside the curve?
Yeah.
Can I just point to a spot higher up and say, I want that much corn and that much cotton?
You can dream about it, but you can't have it. That point is impossible with your current resources and technology.
So it's unattainable for now.
For now. To get there, you need economic growth. You need to find more resources or better technology to push the whole curve outwards. But the most important lesson from the PPF isn't about growth, it's about opportunity cost.
The cost of the next best alternative, the road not taken.
Right. If you are on the curve and you want one more ton of corn, you cannot just conjure it. You must shift resources away from the cotton field. You have to take a farmer from the cotton field and put him in the corn field.
So you have to give up some cotton.
You have to. The amount of cotton you sacrifice is the opportunity cost of that extra corn.
There are no free lunches. To get A, you must lose B.
Never. There is always a trade-off. Now let's connect this to a specific UPSC previous year question to show why this isn't just theory. Look at the 2013 CSP paper, Civil Services Preliminary.
Okay, I've got it here.
There was a specific question about the concept of marginal productivity of labor.
Right. It mentions a scenario where marginal productivity of labor is 0. How does that fit with our weaver and farmer logic?
Okay, think of a small family farm in Bihar. You have 2 acres of land. That's your fixed resource constraint. Your capital is fixed.
Okay, 2 acres.
If 2 family members work it, they produce, say, 100 kilograms of rice. If a third person joins, maybe they produce 120 kilograms in total. The marginal product of that third person is 20 kilograms.
Okay, so output is still growing. That's good.
It is, but what if you put 10 family members on that exact same 2-acre plot?
They'd be bumping into each other. They'd be stepping on the crops. It would be a complete mess.
Exactly. The 10th worker adds nothing to the total output. Their marginal contribution is 0. This is what we call disguised unemployment.
Oh, I see.
It implies the economy is operating inefficiently inside the PPF because that labor resource is being wasted. That person could be used elsewhere to expand the whole frontier, but instead, they're stuck adding 0 value.
That's fascinating. So the concept of scarcity isn't just about not having enough stuff. It's about the bottleneck of specific resources, like land, limiting what other resources, like labor, can effectively do.
Precisely. And understanding that helps you answer questions about Indian agriculture that appear in the exam constantly.
Okay, so that sets the stage. Moving on to Section 2. We know we have to make choices. We know resources are scarce. But who gets to make these choices? The textbook calls this organizing the economy.
Right, and this is really the battle of ideologies that defined the 20th century.
Also,
Well, on one side, you have the centrally planned economy. Think of the Soviet Union or India in the early post-independence years to a large extent. In this system, the government answers the 3 questions.
so the government is the big brain.
The government decides, we will produce steel, not lipstick. We will use machines, not handlooms. The grain will be distributed through ration shops.
I guess the logic is that the government acts as a benevolent parent. It knows what's best for the social good.
That's the stated goal, social welfare. The argument is if you leave it to the market, the poor might starve because they can't afford food. A central planner tries to ensure everyone gets a basic share.
But we know that had its own problems. Inefficiency, lack of innovation, shortages.
Exactly. Which brings us to the alternative, the market economy. Here, nobody decides. There is no master planner.
That sounds like chaos. If nobody is in charge, how do we not run out of bread? How do shoes get to the store? It seems like it should just fall apart.
Price signals. This is the invisible coordinator. It's a brilliant, decentralized system.
Okay, explain that.
Let's say everyone in Delhi suddenly wants avocados. It becomes a health trend on Instagram or something. Demand spikes. What happens to the price of avocados?
It goes through the roof. You see it at the supermarket.
And that high price is a signal. It's a giant green light flashing to every farmer in the country, even in remote areas, saying, grow avocados, you will get rich.
So they start planting avocado trees.
They reallocate their land from wheat to avocados without a single government order. The price coordinated the resource allocation.
So the planner uses orders and decrees. The market uses incentives and, well, greed.
Self-interest, as Adam Smith would say. But yes, that's the mechanism. Now, this is a good place to bring in the distinction between positive and normative economics. The textbook makes a big deal about this.
Right. Why is this so important?
Yes, and it's a crucial distinction for writing mains answers. You need to separate the two. Positive economics is the mechanic opening the hood of the car and saying, the engine is broken.
It's just a statement of fact.
It's factual, it deals with what is, it describes the mechanism. For example, if rent control is imposed, housing supply will drop. That is a testable prediction based on the mechanism we described.
In normative.
Normative economics is the politician saying, we should impose rent control to help the poor. It involves value judgments, ethics, and what ought to be. It's about desirability.
One is how it works, the other is how we wish it would work.
A great summary. Now, let's apply this to a big PYQ. I'm looking at General Studies Paper 2, 2016, question 13.
What's the question?
It asks, has the Indian governmental system responded adequately to the demands of liberalization, privatization, and globalization started in 1991?
A huge question.
It is, but you can answer it effectively using these Chapter 1 concepts. Pre-1991, India was closer to a centrally planned economy. The government was the producer.
It ran everything. Hotels, airlines, bread factories.
The license Raj, exactly.
Yeah.
The 1991 reforms were a monumental shift toward the market economy, or, more accurately, a mixed economy. The government stepped back.
So it stopped being the main player.
It stopped trying to answer what to produce for every single industry and let price signals handle a lot more of the production. It shifted from being a producer to being a regulator.
But the question asks if the response was adequate. That sounds normative.
This is the normative twist, and this is how you build a sophisticated answer. The critique would be, The market is great at efficiency. That's positive economics. We got better cars, better phones, faster growth. But the market is terrible at equity. That's normative economics. It doesn't care about the poor. It only cares about who can pay. So did the government build enough safety nets? Did they regulate the monopolies that emerged? That's how you synthesize the textbook theory with the exam analysis.
That's a great framework. So you use the system shift to explain the policy change, and then normative versus positive to critique the outcome.
Exactly. You need the vocabulary of microeconomics to articulate the macro change. It gives your answer structure and depth.
Okay, let's zoom in now. We've looked at the system level. Now let's look at the individual players. Section 3. The consumer's mind. The textbook assumes we are all rational consumers.
Which, if you've ever gone grocery shopping while hungry, you know is a bold assumption.
Very bold.
But for the model to work, yes, we assume the consumer wants to maximize utility, which is just a fancy word for satisfaction or happiness.
But I have a limit. I can't just buy infinite happiness. My bank account strongly disagrees.
That constraint is the budget line. It represents the hard constraint of reality. It's defined by two things: your income, which we call M, and the prices of the goods you want to buy, P1, P2.
So my salary and the price tags.
That's it. And the slope of that line is critical. It shows you the market rate of exchange.
What does that mean?
It means what the market forces you to trade. If you have 100 rupees and coffee is 50 rupees, while a samosa is 25.
Then to buy one more coffee, I have to give up 2 samosas.
The market tells you that. That is the trade-off the market imposes on you.
Okay, that's what I can do.
Oh.
But what about what I want to do, my personal preferences?
That is represented by your preferences, which we map using something called indifference curves.
Explain this curve. Indifference sounds like I don't care.
It just means you are equally happy. Imagine a curve where every single point on it represents a combination of coffee and samosas that gives you the exact same level of joy.
So I'm indifferent between having bundle A, say 5 coffees and 2 samosas, or bundle B, 3 coffees and 6 samosas.
If they're on the same curve, yes, they both make you equally happy.
Okay, but I'd always prefer more of both, right? A higher curve would be better.
Yes, that's the assumption of monotonic preference. More is better. You always want to be on a higher curve further away from the origin, from 0. But here's the concept that trips people up. Marginal rate of substitution, MRS.
Sounds like calculus jargon. Translate it for us.
Think of it as your personal desperation ratio. How many samosas are you willing to give up to get just one more coffee?
My personal trade-off, not the market's.
Exactly. If you have 100 samosas and 0 coffee, you are desperate for caffeine. You might trade 10 samosas for that first cup. Your MRS is high.
But if I'm already swimming in coffee, say I've had 5 cups.
You wouldn't trade a single samosa for a 6th cup. As you get more of something, you value the next unit less and less. That's why the curve bends. The marginal rate of substitution diminishes.
So where do I actually make a decision? Where does the rational consumer pull the trigger and buy something?
The consumer's optimum. This is the magic moment. It's the tangency point. It's where your budget line, what you can afford, just barely kisses the highest possible indifference curve, what you want.
The sweet spot.
It's the sweet spot. At that precise point, the market's trade-off matches your personal willingness to trade. That's equilibrium for the consumer.
Okay, so does this explain the law of demand? You know, the simple idea that when price goes up, I buy less.
Generally, yes. It's the foundation for it. But we have to get a bit more nuanced and distinguish between types of goods.
Normal versus inferior.
Right. For a normal good, like fresh vegetables or nice clothes, if your income goes up, your demand goes up. That's intuitive. You get richer, you buy more nice things.
But an inferior good. Inferior sounds like it's broken or low quality.
It just means budget-friendly, really. Think of coarse grains like bajra in some contexts, or maybe generic instant noodles. If your income doubles, do you buy more cheap instant noodles?
No, I buy sushi. Or at least better noodles. I definitely stop eating the cheap ones.
Exactly. So for inferior goods, when income goes up, demand goes down. It breaks the usual pattern because you switch to better alternatives. It's a key concept for understanding poverty and consumption patterns.
And then we have elasticity. That's just sensitivity to price, right?
Yes. How sensitive are you? If the price of salt doubles, you don't care. You still buy salt because you need it and it's a tiny part of your budget. Demand is inelastic.
But a flight ticket.
If the price of a specific airline ticket goes up by 10%, you might switch to a different airline or take the train immediately. That's elastic.
Got it. Let's flip the table. We've analyzed the buyer. Now let's look at the seller. Section 4. The producer's logic. If the consumer is a happiness maximizer, what is the firm?
In microeconomics, for the sake of the model, we define the firm as a ruthless profit maximizer.
Sounds like a movie villain.
It's a simplifying assumption, but a powerful one. The firm takes inputs, land, labor, capital, and pushes them through a production function to get output. But time matters here. We have the short run and the long run.
What's the difference? Is it like 1 year versus 10 years?
It's not about calendar time, it's about flexibility. In the short run, at least one factor of production is stuck. It's fixed. Usually it's capital. You can't build a new factory next week. You're stuck with the building you have.
So you can only change some things.
You can only change variable inputs like labor hire or fire people or raw materials.
And in the long run,
Everything is variable. You can sell the factory, buy a new one, change your entire technology, or leave the industry entirely. All bets are off.
this connects back to that too many cooks in the kitchen problem we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The law of variable proportions.
Yes. This is the formal name for it. It only applies in the short run because your factory capital is fixed. When you add more and more workers, the variable input to that fixed factory, initially, output increases efficiently. But eventually, it leads to diminishing returns.
And that brings us back to the 2013 CSP question. Marginal productivity is 0.
That is the extreme end of the law of variable proportions. It's the mathematical proof of why overpopulation in agriculture can keep a country poor. You are adding labor, a valuable resource, but you're not getting any more output. It's wasted.
Let's look at costs. I always get confused by the shapes of these curves. Why is the average cost curve U-shaped? It goes down and then it comes back up.
Okay, think about a bakery. You have a big oven that's a fixed cost. You paid for it whether you bake 1 loaf or 1,000.
Right. The rent on the building, the oven itself.
If you bake only 1 loaf of bread, that loaf is incredibly expensive because it has to cover the entire cost of the oven, essentially.
Okay, so as I bake more, the cost per loaf drops dramatically.
Exactly. You are spreading the overhead. That's the downward slope of the U. Your average fixed cost is falling. But eventually, the kitchen gets crowded, workers start bumping into each other, you need to pay overtime, machines break down from overuse, your variable costs start to skyrocket.
So the cost per loaf starts to climb again.
And that's the upward slope. The rising marginal cost starts pulling the average up.
So the goal of the firm is to find the very bottom of that U, the sweet spot.
That is the point of maximum efficiency, the lowest possible average cost.
Okay, Section 5. Buyers meet sellers. Perfect competition. This feels like a fantasy world described in the book. A large number of buyers, identical products, free entry and exit. Does this actually exist?
It's a benchmark, like a frictionless vacuum in physics. It's a theoretical ideal. It doesn't exist perfectly, but agricultural markets, like the market for wheat or corn, come very close.
Why wheat?
Think about it. Thousands of farmers, thousands of buyers. One farmer's wheat is identical to another's, and it's relatively easy to start or stop farming wheat. The key feature here is that firms are price takers.
Explain that. What does it mean to take the price?
If you are a single wheat farmer in Punjab, you are too small to impact the global price of wheat. You are a drop in the ocean. If the market says wheat is 2,000 rupees a quintal, you charge 2,000.
What if I charge 2,100?
Nobody buys from you. Why would they? Your wheat is identical to the next guy's who is selling for 2,000.
And if I charge 1,900?
You'll sell everything instantly, but you're just losing money for no reason. You could have gotten 2,000. So you have no choice but to take the market price.
So how do I maximize profit if I can't even set my own price? That seems contradictory.
You don't control the price, but you control your quantity. And the golden rule of microeconomics for a firm is this. Produce until price equals marginal cost. P equals MC.
Walk me through the logic of that. Why that specific point?
Okay, imagine the market price for wheat in $10. It costs you $6 to grow 1 more bushel. That's your marginal cost. Do you grow it?
Yes, of course. I make $4 profit on that bushel.
What if the next bushel costs $8 to grow? Maybe because you're using less fertile land?
Still yes.
Yeah.
$2 profit is better than nothing. I'll take it.
What if the next one costs $11 due to overtime labor and extra fertilizer?
No, I would lose $1 on that one.
So you stop producing exactly when the cost of the next unit hits the price you can get for it, P equal MC. That is the point where you maximize your total pile of profit. Any more, and you lose money. Any less, and you leave money on the table.
And when every single farmer does this, the market clears. We reach equilibrium.
Supply equals demand. But here is the magic of the invisible hand in the long run. Suppose there is a war somewhere and wheat prices spike to $20. Farmers are now making huge, supernormal profits.
They're getting rich, buying new tractors, building bigger houses.
And what does that signal do? That signal of high profits.
It attracts new people. Everyone wants to become a wheat farmer. Entry.
Exactly. New people start farming wheat. Supply shifts to the right, it increases. And when supply increases, what happens to price?
Basic law of supply and demand, it falls.
Right. And it keeps falling until those supernormal profits are wiped out and everyone is just making normal profit again.
And normal profit just means you're covering all your costs, including the opportunity cost, paying yourself a decent salary, right? It's not zero money, it's zero excess.
Correct. The market is self-correcting. It's a beautiful and sometimes brutal mechanism.
Unless the government steps in. And that brings us to Section 6, market interventions.
Right. Because sometimes the equilibrium price is efficient, but society decides it's not fair.
Enter price ceilings and price floors. Let's distinguish them. A ceiling is a cap, an upper limit, right? Like rent control.
Yes. The government says rents in the city are too high. You cannot charge more than 10,000 rupees for a 2 BHK. The goal is noble. Make housing affordable.
But the economist in you is cringing, I can tell.
Because of the mechanical consequence. If the market equilibrium price should be 20,000 and you cap it at 10,000, two things happen. One, demand explodes. Everyone wants a cheap apartment.
And two,
landlords stop building new apartments or even maintaining the old ones because they're losing money. Supply shrinks.
high demand, low supply. You've created a shortage.
Excess demand. This leads to black markets, huge security deposits, key money, long waiting lists, or just crumbling buildings. You tried to help, but you created a shortage.
Okay, so that's a ceiling. What about the opposite? A price floor.
This is the minimum support price, MSP, for farmers, or the minimum wage for workers. The government sets a price above the equilibrium to protect the producer or the worker.
So the government says farmers must get at least this much for their crop.
And the result? Farmers have a huge incentive to produce a ton of that crop, high supply. But buyers, including private companies, buy less because it's artificially expensive, low demand,
Surplus.
excess supply. And usually the government has to step in and buy that surplus with taxpayer money or the food rots in the go-downs.
Okay, let's connect this to a brilliant PYQ. This is from 2014 GS1, question 14. Discuss the various economic and sociocultural forces that are driving increasing feminization of agriculture in India.
This is a fantastic question to link.
It seems very social, but how does micro fit here?
Look at it through the lens of opportunity cost. As the Indian economy grows, the industrial and service sectors in cities are growing rapidly. They offer higher wages. Who moves first to capture those wages?
Well, traditionally, due to social mobility norms and other factors, it's often the men from the household.
Right. They migrate to capture that higher value for their labor. The women often stay behind in the village. This is the supply of labor shifting in different markets. But the question is, why do they stay in agriculture?
Okay.
Because of interventions like MSP and welfare schemes like MG that create a floor for survival in the village. The feminization isn't just a cultural phenomenon. It's a rational economic response to wage differentials and government price floors that sustain the viability of the sector they are left in.
That is deep. So it's not just men leave, it's markets reallocate labor based on price signals, and government floors create an economic rationale for women to remain and manage the agricultural sector.
Exactly. And you can also look at the 2013 GS3 question about inclusive growth.
The budgeting question.
Yes. Think of the nation as one giant consumer. It has a budget line, which is its tax revenue. It has unlimited wants, defense, infrastructure, health, education. Inclusive growth is a normative goal. It's choosing a point on the national PPF that favors the vulnerable, even if it has an opportunity cost in other areas, like maybe slower highway construction.
I love that analogy. The finance minister is just a consumer with a really, really big budget line and a lot of competing indifference curves.
And a lot of political pressure.
Okay, let's move on. Section 7. We talked about perfect competition, but we know the real world isn't perfect. Let's talk about the bullies on the playground. Monopoly and oligopoly.
A monopoly is simple to define. Single seller. They are not price takers, they are price maters. They can set the price high to maximize profit because you, the consumer, have nowhere else to go.
But oligopoly is more interesting for UPSC, right? It seems to come up more.
Yes, because it describes so many of our key industries. This is where you have a few large firms. Think telecom in India Geo, Airtel, Vodafone Idea, or airlines, or steel.
They watch each other like hawks.
Exactly. The key term is strategic interaction. If Geo drops its data rates, Airtel must react. They can't ignore it. They are locked in the strategic dance.
Whereas in perfect competition, The wheat farmer doesn't care what the other farmer does.
Not at all. In oligopoly, you are obsessed with your rival's every move. Now let's link this to the PYQ linkage from 2020 and 2025 General Studies Paper 1. There are questions about the spatial pattern of the iron and steel industry.
That sounds like a geography question.
It is, but it's actually pure microeconomics. The steel industry is a classic oligopoly. Their primary goal is cost minimization to protect their profits.
So historically, where did they put the factories?
Near the raw materials, near the coal and iron ore deposits in places like the Chota-Nagpur Plateau. Why? Because those inputs are heavy and they lose weight during production. Transporting them is a massive variable cost.
So to keep your average cost curve as low as possible, you sit on top of the coal mine.
Exactly. But the question asks about the change in the pattern. Modern steel plants are often near the coast, like in Visakhapatnam or near major markets.
Why the shift? What changed in the equation?
Two things. One, technology changed the production function. We use less coal now. We use more scrap steel. We have electric arc furnaces. The input mix changed. Two, transport costs changed. It became cheaper to import high-quality coking coal and more important to be near the buyer, the market, to respond to demand quickly.
So the location of a steel plant isn't random at all. It's a long-run production decision to find the new minimum point on that U-shaped cost curve.
Precisely. It's all about protecting that profit margin in a fiercely competitive oligopoly structure.
We are entering the final stretch, Section 8, the bigger picture. We need to synthesize all this.
Yeah.
We have the 2020 GS1 question 9 about COVID-19 and inequality.
This is a heavy one. COVID-19 pandemic accelerated class inequalities and poverty in India. How does microeconomics explain this?
It feels like a macro problem, a problem about the whole economy.
It is, but it has micro roots. Go back to the third central question, for whom to produce? In a market economy, you only get goods if you have purchasing power.
And purchasing power comes from selling your resources. For most people, that's their labor.
Correct. The pandemic shock was asymmetric. It destroyed the resource endowment of the poor. Their primary resource, daily wage labor, was made illegal during the lockdown. Their budget line didn't just shift, it collapsed to zero overnight.
Meanwhile, white-collar workers, knowledge workers, could work from home. Their resource, their human capital and tech skills was still valuable.
Right, so the market continued to allocate goods to those with money. The market doesn't solve inequality. It blindly solves allocation based on ability to pay. That is why the inequality gap widened so dramatically. The initial distribution of resources determined the outcome of the shock.
And that links directly to the 2025 GS2 question 16. Inequality in ownership pattern of resources is one of the major causes of poverty.
It's an explicit link. The paradox of poverty often stems from the simple fact that the poor lack the initial resources. Land, capital, skills, we talked about in Chapter 1. If you start with no resources in a market economy, you have nothing to trade for goods. You are stuck at the origin of the graph.
That is a sobering realization. The clean graphs of the textbook assume everyone starts with something, that everyone can play the game. But if you have no chips to begin with, you can't play.
And that's why we need the government, that's normative economics, to step in with those price floors, welfare schemes, and redistribution policies. The market won't do it on its own.
We also have the 2016 GS2 question 1 about the 69th constitutional amendment and the conflict in Delhi between the elected government and the LT governor. This is political, but is there an economic angle?
There always is. Political conflict is often at its core about resource control. What are they fighting over? Land, police, public order? These are scarce resources. The fight is, who decides the allocation of these resources?
The elected body or the appointed one?
The elected body, which represents the voters and their demands, or the appointed body, which represents the center. It's the central problem of control over scarce resources playing out in a constitutional court.
Wow. When you put it that way, everything is economics. We've gone from a single weaver with some yarn to the complexities of constitutional conflict and post-COVID inequality. Let's try to recap.
It's been a journey. We started with a lonely weaver in a simple economy, facing the fundamental problem of scarcity. And we saw how every society must answer what, how, and for whom to produce.
We learned that price is a signal, a powerful decentralized signal that coordinates millions of people without a boss. We learned about the consumer trying to maximize happiness on a budget.
And the firm trying to maximize profit by watching the margins, producing where price equals marginal cost.
We saw the invisible hand of perfect competition and the very visible, often clumsy hand of government intervention with price ceilings and floors.
And finally, we saw how the oligopolies of the steel industry and the deep inequalities of the pandemic all traced their roots back to these simple, powerful curves of supply, demand, and cost.
It's a journey from the abstract textbook to the concrete, messy reality of India.
That's the goal.
I have one final provocative thought for our listeners to take away from all this.
Go for it.
The textbook and our discussion largely assumes we are rational consumers and ruthless profit maximizers. But looking at the PYQs about culture, ethics, social justice, feminization of agriculture, it feels like the textbook is describing a world of robots.
That is the great limitation and the great challenge of this field. The textbook gives you the clean model. It's a vacuum. It gives you the physics.
But the real world is messy.
But the real world, the world of UPSC, is where those clean curves collide with the messy, irrational, emotional, political reality of human behavior.
And that's where the real study begins. You need the model to understand the mess, but you can't forget that the model isn't the whole truth.
Perfectly said. The model is a map, not the territory.
All right, friends, that brings us to the end of this deep dive into NCERT microeconomics. I hope your brain is buzzing.
In a good way, we hope.
Remember, this episode was brought to you specifically for the Simplified UPSC by PPP channel. If this helps you connect the dots between the Weaver in Chapter 1 and the steel plant in the mains question, please hit that subscribe button. It makes a huge difference.
And if you can, please consider supporting the team on Patreon. It helps us keep the research deep and the content flowing. A massive thank you to our current patrons. You really do make this happen.
And don't forget to check the Telegram public channel for your free notes and those practice PYQs we mentioned throughout the discussion.
And for the serious learners, the ones who want the complete toolkit, DM us to join the private Telegram library for the premium organized notes and model answers. It really is worth it.
Like this video, leave a comment, share with a study buddy. Keep asking the dumb questions because they usually lead to the smartest answers. Keep learning, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye and good luck with your preparation.